Brought to you by The Average. Link in description. Have you ever heard someone say that if we tax rich people anymore, they will simply pack up and leave? It sounds dramatic. It sounds like a warning siren, and it fills headlines every year, as if the world's fortunes were one bad policy away from disappearing forever. So let's ask a real question. What if that fear is exaggerated? What if the shocking fact is that almost no one actually leaves? Chapter 1. The argument everyone repeats. Whenever effective taxation enters the conversation, one claim rises above the rest. A record number of millionaires are expected to move overseas. Thousands of New Yorkers are preparing to relocate. High earners in wealthy countries are supposedly heading for lower tax havens. And the story that follows is simple. If you tax wealthy people, they will run off to Miami, Dubai, Singapore, or Switzerland. And once they vanish, they take jobs, businesses, and revenue with them, leaving cities poorer than before. But let's slow down and look closer, because the evidence tells a different story. There is a famous idea in economics called the Laffer Curve. On one end, tax rates are low, and so is revenue. As rates rise, revenue rises too, but only to a point. Beyond that point, raising taxes too high disincentivizes activity, and overall revenue drops. It sounds convincing, and the basic idea is not wrong. But the real world is more complex than a simple curve on a whiteboard. A major study across dozens of advanced economies found that almost all of them were operating on the side of the curve, where raising taxes on high earners would still increase total revenue. The United States, Mexico, and Slovakia had the largest gap between current tax rates and the rate that would maximize revenue, which means that, for most countries, the fear of losing money by taxing the rich more is not supported by data. Chapter 2. What tax policy actually tries to solve. Another misunderstanding is the belief that the goal of tax policy is always to squeeze out the maximum possible revenue. It is not. Taxes can be raised to discourage harmful behavior or lowered to relieve pressure on households. Policy has many purposes beyond simply collecting more money. But the biggest myth is the idea that rich people decide where to live using a global spreadsheet sorted by lowest tax rate. The truth is far more human. Most high earners value business opportunities, family, relationships, culture, and stability far more than a few points of tax savings. Look at Europe. Countries with high tax rates have seen some of the strongest wealth growth in the world. Even after accounting for migration, the highest median wealth is found in places with progressive taxation. And closer to home, New York has been declared a collapsing millionaire haven for decades. Yet, its millionaire population is the highest it has ever been. Some wealthy people leave, of course. Some move to New Jersey and commute. Some spend half the year in Florida. Some hedge fund titans make it a sport to avoid residency requirements. But these are outliers, not the rule. Most wealthy people stay because the opportunities that made them wealthy are rooted in the places they live. Chapter 3. When the exception becomes the headline. To understand the difference, look at London. For years, it attracted global fortunes with light regulation and a friendly financial center. The city turned into a magnet for money from everywhere. But as the government tightened rules around money laundering and closed loopholes, that global wealth began to drift away. This is not surprising. When a country attracts people who came only for financial advantage, they leave just as easily for financial advantage. Competing to be the cheapest bidder for a few thousand millionaires rarely pays off. The people who move purely for tax benefits rarely stay long enough to build community or contribute meaningfully to one. Meanwhile, despite the outflow of ultra-wealthy individuals, the number of millionaires born and raised in the UK has continued to rise. Homegrown wealth behaves differently. It is rooted. It cares about more than a balance sheet. Chapter 4. What recent moves really teach us. We saw a smaller version of this between California and Texas. When remote work peaked, many people moved to cheaper states with lower taxes. But as companies brought workers back to offices and tech firms returned to familiar hubs, places like Austin experienced a shock. The growth was never permanent. It was driven by temporary incentives and temporary circumstances. The same is true nationally. The United States could theoretically raise top marginal tax rates dramatically, and most wealthy people would still stay. Access to tech hubs, the financial system, real estate markets, and professional networks is simply worth more than the tax savings they would gain elsewhere. Of course, some famous billionaires will always make headlines when they move, but the impact on the broader economy is small. It is far more important to keep thousands of skilled professionals, not one celebrity investor. Losing a doctor, an engineer, or a manager hurts a country more than losing a millionaire who rarely spends time there. Chapter 5. The real scale of the problem. Here is the surprising truth. Global reports estimate that migrating millionaires account for around 0% of the world's millionaire population. Out of roughly 60 million millionaires on Earth, only a tiny fraction move for any reason, tax or otherwise. Conflicts, politics, and retirement are more common motivations than taxes. So, what happens if a country truly does lose a significant number of wealthy residents? History shows it is almost never caused by taxes. It is caused by instability. The wealthy flee after the damage begins, not before. And even then, the biggest loss is not their money. It is the skilled people who leave with them. The best way to prevent that is simple. Make sure institutions function, safety is strong, and people feel secure where they live. Everything else is noise. And before you click off, here's something that can help you level up a little each day. If you weren't born into opportunity and you're just trying to grow at your own pace, check out The Average, a free newsletter and community for everyday people figuring life out as they go. It breaks down money, business, career growth, AI, mindset, and productivity into simple, practical insights you can actually use. If you want to understand the world more clearly and become better than yesterday, hit the link below and join for free. I'll see you in the next video.